We're live.
Hey.
So yeah, evening everyone. Lewis Smith of MMA UK here with another MMA UK live stream. Tonight we're kind of picking up where we left off a few months back with the Late Show. I think we're going to be trying to get one of these out weekly now, where you're going to have a range of us from people who's on tonight and some other people who's not on, talking about MMA and what's going on in the world of MMA as well. So tonight you're going to be stuck with myself. First of all, Kerry Stella from across the pond. Kerry, how are you this evening?
I am great. I got some much needed rest yesterday after a very crazy Saturday night of watching UFC 231. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Happy to speak to you, Kerry. And next we've got Chris Emanuel. Chris, how's things for you, buddy?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Lewis. How are you?
I'm well. I'm very well. Happy to get into this evening. And last but certainly not least, the guy we like to call the expert, Cameron Wright. Cameron, how are you?
Not too shabby, mate. Not too shabby. Jealous of the weekend's exploits again to watch all the fights. I was had to catch them all up on Sunday evening, so feeling that tiredness as well.
Yeah, I bet. So we've got a few topics we want to cover tonight, so I'm going to jump straight into it, guys. Firstly was one close to home, which was Cage Warriors 100. Obviously the centenary card for Cage Warriors, and the biggest one they've ever put on, I think it's fair to say. That was down in Cardiff. I'll come to you first, Chris. What was your thoughts on the night and just overall take on it?
Thoughts on the night. I thought it was a fantastic event. As always, Cage Warriors events are always really well matched. We're blessed in the UK to have two world-class matchmakers in Ian Dean and Jude Samuel. Those two guys have always set the bar high, and Ian Dean's just surpassed himself, I think, for Cage Warriors 100. The work they've done beforehand, obviously, the building of Jack Shaw has been fantastic, but then the tournament for the co-main event, the featherweight tournament, it culminated in an absolutely fantastic bout. Their storylines all over the place. There's so many different topics that we hopefully will get to cover tonight. But no, from start to finish, really enjoyable show. I loved it.
Yeah, it was a fantastic night. I was obviously there just to give you guys kind of a sort of sense of the atmosphere. We were in the press room now in the ice arena in Cardiff. You've got obviously it's an ice rink, so you've got the seating on the floor with the cage in the middle. You've got the kind of the bleachers around it then, and there's like a few press boxes, or I guess like VIP boxes where we had the press room. And anytime we did an interview, if someone opened the door, it was so loud in the arena that it ruined the interview. So we had to lock the doors when we were doing interviews. It was so loud, and it was just, for me, obviously being a Welsh guy and having so many Welsh fighters on the card, it was just an unbelievable experience and something that I won't forget in a hurry. But let's get straight into the card. The first fight we wanted to talk about, and I'm going to come to our expert, Cameron Wright, first. Scott Malone versus Josh Reed. Very quick fight. What was your thoughts on that one, Cameron? Obviously, I guess you're happy about the victory for Scott as well.
Yeah, I didn't want to kind of rub it in any way, shape, and form. Obviously, Scotsman beating a Welshman. I don't want to dig up any sensibilities on that.
It doesn't happen very often, so.
Well, I tell you, it was a good one anyway. I mean, Malone's been up and coming for a while now. He had his last fight got cancelled, I believe, when he was that in 99, I think, or 98. He was supposed to fight, and his fight got cancelled, which was he's been a great presence in the Scottish MMA community lately, and I'm not sure what's next for him, but I think he's got maybe another couple in Cage Warriors before he'll be ready for any bigger shows. But I don't think he's too far away. I don't think he's too far away from that at the moment. And not to jump the gun, but Aidan Stephen as well. Obviously, another Scotsman beating a Welshman in Wales. Again, amazing sub. Like he pulled. It was lovely, man. There's just a wealth of Scottish talent coming up just now, and it's good to see them kind of getting a chance to shine on the Cage Warriors cards.
Yeah, definitely. And Chris, what did you make there? Obviously, just for people who didn't know at home, Scott Malone obviously got the finish over Josh Reed, a very game Josh Reed with an armbar, I believe. What was your take on that fight, Chris?
I loved it, and just as Cameron was saying, surely the next thing for Scott Malone's got to be a title shot. You're looking around the rest of the bantamweight category in the UK, and certainly he's signed to Cage Warriors. It realistically has to be Malone now. a friend of mine, Dan Cassell, he's a matchmaker for Golden Ticket. He's shown Wolverhampton, fighter himself actually. He's fought in Cage Warriors a few times. Dan always says, if you've fought and you've won 3 times on my show, then you are eligible for a title shot. Now, obviously, he's done that. He's fought 3 times. Scott Malone, I think he beat Jason Jenkins. I can't remember the guy he beat before. Adam Amazinger. And then obviously Reed. So, he's fought 3 times on Cage Warriors. He's won 3 times on Cage Warriors. I don't really think that there's anyone else who can challenge him for that title shot. And as Cameron said, the Aiden Stevens fight. Do you know what? The one thing that is missing from that, because Aiden was phenomenal. The one thing that was missing from it, because he did the lovely flip off the cage as well. On the mic, he was rubbish. I was like, come on, Aiden, just give it some oomph, just tell him, bollocks to you, I'm going to be the man. Aiden Stevens, someone who's actually beaten Malone as well as an amateur. So, the guy's got pedigree. He's 5-1 now. He should be shouting from the rooftop. So, Aiden, if you're listening to this, just next time, swear, do whatever you need to do. Just stand out more because you were phenomenal in the cage. I
mean, it was his first fight on Cage Warriors as well, so maybe he's going to settle into that. He does seem kind of a more quiet guy, so I would think, you give him a little bit of time to settle in, and maybe you will start seeing him calling people out. Kerry, I just want to come to you. Do you agree with what Chris said? Three wins like that and you're eligible for a title shot, and would you like to see him challenge Jack Shaw now?
I actually saw your everybody's post about Jack Shore, and I mean, why not? When you get 3 wins, you guys said, and if that's going to be a really exciting fight, I mean, shit, why not?
Yeah, Kerry, we don't have any picture of you at the minute. I don't know if you're having any sort of technical issues. We just got like a white screen. I can see. I don't know what the other guys are seeing with that.
I think we're good. Yeah, I think we're all getting different pictures, but I think you're. On the stream, it looks like it's working to me. Yeah, it looks like it's working.
Oh, no, okay, sorry, that was my apologies. It must be the Welsh Wi-Fi kicking in there.
That's it.
You used it all up for the weekend.
Yeah. False call here, Kerry. Sorry about that.
Cameron, can I ask Cameron a question? Cameron, who do you think should be next for Aiden Stevens?
I really, to be honest, I actually don't know. I really don't know. I hope there is a title shot in his future, but I think you're right. His skills are phenomenal. He's a little shy on the mic, but I want to see him have another couple fights at that level, show his skills a little more, build up a bit of a highlight reel, and take his time getting to the title, take his time getting basically getting to the big show, because we've seen a few guys come up through Cage Warriors and maybe rise a little too fast. Dalby, so obviously there's another kind of little fight to do with Cage Warriors that might be on the cards there. Dalby was calling it Ross Houston. I would love to see that fight. I actually would prefer to see it over any others made, purely because Dalby's someone, he fought Darren Till, and it's Dalby's career stumbled a little bit when he reached the UFC, because he reached a sort of level that maybe he hadn't seen before, and I wonder, I sometimes worry that they get thrown. UK fighters definitely get thrown to the dogs, and European fighters definitely don't get an easy run when they go up to the UFC. And I would like to see Aiden at least take a couple more, not easy fights, but I think, like you said, well matched fights before he has any big challenges to overcome.
Can I track 2 names at you?
Sure.
Okay, so Aiden Lee being one, and the other one being Pretty Boy Taylor, who's fought the last couple on Bama.
It would be a good fight. Is his contract?
I think
obviously, but the future of Obama's been a little bit in the air at the moment. But I did see that they had been posting some things, so I'm not sure if they are fully deceased yet. But
I would be very confident in saying that he would be available outside of any Bama commitment.
I would watch that fight. I would definitely watch that fight. I would like to say Aiden might have it on the feet, but you never know. You never know in that fight.
Yeah, no. I think one thing I want to say to you, Chris, was with regards to Aiden obviously being a bit shy on the mic, is you've got another guy who's not the kind of most outrightly talkative, is Scott Malone. He's very sort of softly spoken. He doesn't sort of call a lot of people out, but Scott is a guy who's getting, very, very popular now. So I think it's all about being yourself, really. I think Aiden's going to learn that as he goes along now. Cage Warriors is, the biggest platform he's ever been on. And I think, once he sort of settles in, gets a few more fights under his belt, he's going to sort of settle into his personality as well. And I look forward to seeing Aiden again. And obviously looking forward to seeing what the future holds for Scott as well. So 2 really good Scottish guys there. As you said, getting wins over Welsh guys this weekend. It's got to happen sometime. Like I said, it doesn't happen very often. So we'll give it to you this weekend.
Maybe we'll give the Welsh some chances coming soon as well, because I've heard a couple rumours of Cage Warriors coming to Scotland. Obviously, that's been in the cards for a long time, and that's I think there's I would say there's enough Scots there to definitely carry a card up if they were to bring it up here. If Ross Houston was to get a big fight.
We've been talking about this for ages now, but we don't. As far as I'm aware, there's nothing set, and I mean I'll believe it at this point when it's all booked in. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on it coming to Scotland. Like I said, I think it'd be great. You've got the fighters, you've definitely got the appetite for it up there. I think it'd be great, but like I said, for me, until it's booked in right now, I'm kind of I'm not thinking about it really too much. But
I think the difference there as well, though, is that the Welsh essentially laid the groundwork for all Cage Warriors. Richard Shaw had Pain Pit, which was the show that Cage Warriors essentially took over. So Pain Pit was established. It had his crowd. It had his it had his fan base essentially. And then Cage Warriors came in and then added the razzmatazz to it. So Scotland hasn't got that with Cage Warriors at the moment. From the Cage Warriors academies when they took over recently, there was the so Pain Pit, obviously they took over Jack Mason's show, BC MMA down the southeast, Shinobi in the northwest. I think at one point they did take over Phoenix on the south coast, but I've not seen anything really come from that. But there's nothing further north. So I think, I don't know if On Top or Budo or the one who Peter loves ended up joining up with Cage Warriors, then that would certainly make things a bit easier for them to come north of the border.
Yeah. I like I say, it's one of those things we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully it happens. But I guess we never know. They're going over to Denmark and places like that, so I don't see why they couldn't get to Scotland anytime soon. But let's bring this obviously to the next point now. I wanna raise 2 questions here for all you guys involved. The first one is obviously going to be discussing the Dalby fight. We touched on that. Dalby obviously got a stoppage win over Phil Mulpiter. And like we said, do we think he is going to be the next title contender now against Ross Houston on that Copenhagen card coming up in March? Chris, I'll come to you first with that.
I don't know. Ross quickly turned around and said he's been called out. He got called out quite a lot that night, which is true because both Alex Dahor and Nicholas Dalby called him out. Yeah. And if we're to use the Dan Cassell method, as I'll call it now, 3 wins on a show to get a title shot, then neither Dalby or Lahore have done that. Both have won 2 on the bounce. Now, Lahore won on Cage FC beforehand, so he's on a 3-fight win streak. Dalby had lost 3 on the bounce beforehand, so in his last 5 he's 2-3, although he's won his last 2 on Cage Warriors. So Ross Houston had recommended the pair of them fight each other essentially as a title eliminator, and I can see a bit of logic to that. Whilst Dalby looks super impressive, tough as Mulpiter is, he did look like a guy who'd been out for 2 years. And it was his toughness that kept him in the fight for that long. And you can't question his heart. The guy took a lot of punishment in that fight, but there's no quitting him. But if Dalby has fought against someone who had been active, then would he have been as impressive? I don't know. So I think there's still quite a few questions to be asked on that.
Would you rather see him fight Dalby, or would you rather see him take on someone like Alex Lahore?
I'm leaning towards Lahore, not because it's 2 weeks on the trot now, but not because I've got I like Alex, but because we've seen Nicholas Dalby have the Cage Warriors strap. I think that if someone's comes back and comes back into the organisation and goes back for the title, they've got to really stand out for me to get that opportunity because they've already had it. I'd like to see someone else get that shot, but with Lahore, there's also another narrative as well which hasn't really been talked about, because on Cage Warriors 99, Nathan Jones won for the first time in a while, and Jones and Lahore have got a hell of a lot of history. So they fought once, and it was a pretty brutal knockout. I can't remember what number it was. One of the Wembley cards, and I think there's still some unfinished business there, which Cage Warriors, I think, are smart enough to exploit. So I don't know. Is it right for Lahore to face Jones then for his third? Lahore to face Dalby to fight against for the title eliminator, or maybe straight in against Houston? I'm not too sure. But Lahore looked really impressive. He looked like. One thing about Alex is he looks like his coaches a lot of the time, and he's got Jermaine Facey in his corner, and Mr. Payne. He is just renowned for he hits with the thunder. That guy just sends people into the Badlands with every shot. So that's the way that Lahore dispatched Barnett, which was really super impressive for me.
Yeah. So there's definitely options. Cameron, come to you next. First of all, what did you think of Dalby's stoppage win over Phil Meltzer? After that, do you think he is the next in line for that shot against Houston?
So I totally agree that Dalby maybe hasn't done anything, like, he's not a showman, he's not throwing big spinning kicks, he's not winning with weird submissions or anything like that, but he is tough as nail. His nickname of the Locomotive is probably one of the most appropriate ones in MMA, I feel like, because he's not doing anything complicated. He does stick to the basics generally, but he just does not stop. And I think that's, for me, an interesting fight for Ross Houston, because Ross has faced a great variety of dudes, and it's his toughness that's carried him through, especially in his title fight. His toughness really, and I'm sure in the fourth, it was either the fourth or the fifth round, he took some serious damage and still managed to come through it. And I think Dalby would give him a war. And really, for Cage Warriors, I would love to see them have a big marquee fight. Like, everybody talks about, Griffin and
Bonner.
Griffin and Bonner, from years ago, being the big thing that launched Tough. And obviously Cage Warriors is well known, but if you had a little video clip of Ross and Dalby just destroying each other, that would really boost their I think it would give them a big boost, basically, and it would. I just want to see that fight, to be honest.
To be honest as well, I think that is the fight we're going to see next. Obviously, they've got a card booked in for Denmark, Copenhagen, I believe, and the story's there. You've got Dalby, who's a former champion, returning against this kind of upcoming guy, Ross. It makes sense. I think that is the fight that sells. Dalby is, regardless of who's kind of the better fighter and who deserves it more, Dalby is the bigger name than a guy like Lahore. He's also, he's been on the commentary with Cage Warriors as well. So I think, with kind of being in that kind of circle a bit more, that's going to go in his favour. So for me, I think that's the fight we're going to see out in Copenhagen in March. Is going to be for the welterweight title. And, to be honest, I think that fight does more for Ross's career as well moving forward. So that's the one I'm thinking we're going to see. And yeah, I very much look forward to seeing that out in Copenhagen. Obviously, that then brings us on to the first of the title fights of Cage Warriors 100. That was competed for. It was the Grand Prix tournament they had. It wasn't the Grand Prix tournament. It was just a tournament. My apologies. And it was between Dean Truman and Aiden Lee. A really, really highly anticipated fight this was. It was a matchup where we knew we were getting the best versus the best in the division. We sort of weeded it down to two. And a really interesting clash, which obviously we now know Dean Truman got the stoppage and became the new featherweight title holder. Cameron, first of all, what did you think of the stoppage, and what did you think of Dean Truman's performance?
It was I would say nice to watch. It was tough to watch, but it was good. It was a good performance. See, I've said it a few times now, but Dean's another one of the guys that I feel is just right on that cusp of getting the call up. I know that obviously we had the thing with Bellator picking up a lot of UK fighters recently, which was apparently them kind of trying to quell the UK market for the UFC. But I think if there's any big English cards coming soon, I really would be surprised not to see him on it. His hands look great. I don't know who else really would. Where else he can go, to be honest.
And a deserving champion, do you think?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. And Chris, I want to come to you because I know after the fight, Aiden was kind of hit. He felt that he was stopped a little bit too soon. Would you agree with that, or do you think the stoppage came at the right time?
So it's really difficult. I was talking to a couple of people about this today. I'm trying to ask around before tonight. Aiden had any commentary, because Aiden did say something about that on Instagram. I couldn't work out why Rich stopped it. I couldn't work out whether Aiden had tapped or verbally submitted, and he looked visibly upset afterwards. But the thing is, the position he was in is one of those positions you can't really train for. There was no way that he's going to get out of that position. His only escape route was up against the fence. Dean got him. Dean took an onslaught in that first round, and he coped with it. And then he got Aiden in that position. And I picked against him, so apologies, Mr. Truman, but you deservedly won, mate.
Everyone picked against him, so he definitely came and proved us wrong.
Yeah, he's a deserving winner, and fair play to him. He's one of those guys. Like I said, it's been around for quite a while now. I think it's 2011 he made his pro debut, and it's good to see a guy he's put in the hours actually get the reward for it. And Aiden's still so young. He's only 22, 23, so he's got forever in front of him. So it's Dean's time now, and let's see where he goes from here.
Yeah, what I would say is I interviewed Dean after the fight, and one thing I really like about Dean is his kind of attitude. He's got like a real, I wouldn't say a chip on his shoulder, but he's very, very intense with it. I mean, when he came in, he kind of said, that he said he was going to prove us wrong, and he'd done it. He was happy about that, and I think that attitude for a fighter to have, I think is going to push him a long way. It makes him very marketable, and it also is, it's a good kind of mentality to have to be getting in the cage. So I loved that fight. From where I was sitting in the arena, it looked like a fair stoppage. I've heard a lot of people saying they thought it was a little bit too soon, but from where I was sat, it looked a good stoppage. Obviously, it looks different in real life on the TV, but I thought it was a good stoppage, and very, very happy for Dean. And as you said, with Aiden, very young, so I think he'll definitely come back. And I think, to be honest, he'll still become a featherweight champion before he goes on to better things. So big respect to both those guys. And obviously, then that takes us on to the main event of the evening. Now, this has been building up for a long time in Wales. Obviously, people in September came out to see Jack Shaw win the title. It didn't happen because of a dropout last minute, but we got another chance now on the weekend, and it was Jack Shaw versus Mike Eckendale. Jack obviously getting a phenomenal performance and stopping Eckendale in the third. I'll come to you first, Cameron. What did you make of Jack Shaw's performance?
It was definitely a career definer, I think. Just a dominant performance pretty much the whole way through. I feel I remember, obviously, you had a wee chat with Dan Hardy at the weekend, and he made the point, like I've said a few times, that Jack's definitely due a call up for the UFC as well. He looks like he's ready for that now. I'm not a matchmaker. I wouldn't know who to put in front of him, but he's got a well-rounded skill set now, and definitely deserving of a little bump in pay, I would say. Yeah.
And Chris, to you, I mean, it was a fantastic evening. What did you think of Shaw's performance?
How big is Jack Shaw? Bear in mind, Eckendale is a big lad for bantamweight, and he was absolutely dwarfed by Shaw. I've watched Mike pick people up, and he's not got airlines for no reason. He picks them up, he carries them across the cage, and he dumps them on their head in front of his corner to take instruction. And that just wasn't happening from the first time they engaged with each other. It was Jack taking him down. It was just one-way traffic, and fair play to Mike. He weathered a hell of a storm. But I think probably at this point it'd be really good to mention, throw a bit of praise to Richard Shaw, because Richard's created Jack. He's not just created a fighter; he's created a well-rounded young man. Every interview that I've seen from this kid, everything that he said before and afterwards, he carried himself like a champion, and that's not something that comes naturally. That's something which I think has been ingrained into him from his dad. So, seeing Richard in tears afterwards, it was a beautiful thing to see. That closeness between father and son, that pride where you see so many parents try to live vicariously through their kids, and that just doesn't happen with the Shaws. Richard's essentially given Jack this platform, and he's given him every opportunity, and Jack's grasped it with both hands. And it's really good to see. They're a formidable pairing, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do next. I'm interested to see what Eckendale is going to do next, though. Where can he go from here? Because that's everyone was just looking to see who was going to, who's going to win, where they're going to progress. Jack Shaw's been clear; he's going to defend his belt. He's going to see out his contract. Graham was saying afterwards at the end. I don't know if you saw Lewis, because you were there, but Graham Boylan at the end of the transmission said he spoke to Eckendyer afterwards. He said about how well he carried himself, how well he performed, how he's a super tough guy. So hopefully we'll see him on Cage Warriors again. But against who? Who do you guys reckon, Lewis?
I mean, for me, I think Mike will take a little bit of time off. He took a lot of punishment in that fight, and all credit because people said he was going to kind of manhandle Jack Shaw, and I think the difference in quality really showed. Like you said, Chris, Jack was able to take him down, to just dominate him on the ground. He was always threatening for rear naked chokes, and then he pinned the arm and just kind of pounded him out. So credit to Mike, because I think a lot of other people would have quit sooner than that, but he really hung on in there. I think Mike's going to take a little bit of time to maybe do some training, recover. I think he'll take another fight on Cage Warriors 100%. I think he'll wait and see what happens above him, because, like I said, Jack has said he's going to be defending the belt. I 100% expect Jack Shaw to defend that belt now. Why wouldn't you want another night like that in Cardiff? It doesn't make sense to kind of just go and jump up to the UFC and be on a card in Las Vegas, first fight out, when you could have another one of those. I think he'll definitely do it again. But you never know how many times. Nothing's certain. If the right offer comes, he could go before two or three defenses. So I think Mike will take another fight and see where it goes from there. I don't think that's a bad thing for Mike either, because he's been brilliant up until now. But I think when he came against that kind of skill in Jack Shaw, there was a difference in quality. I don't know what you thought about that, Chris, but to me, to see him get manhandled, it was shocking to me to see how easily Jack put him on his back.
Yeah, Jack just beat him at his own game, and everyone talks about, as Jack said afterwards, everyone talks about Jack's striking. They talk about his submissions, but then we've not seen his wrestling. His wrestling was just on point. There was absolutely no answer for it. So it's a tough road for Mike to come back from. It's his first defeat ever. Didn't lose as an amateur. Didn't lose a pro until Saturday night. So I just hope he comes back strong. He's a good kid. And I think he's got a good future in front of him. But the future is shining for Jack Shaw, certainly.
Yeah. One thing I want to say about it as well, being at the arena, that whole evening in Cardiff was based around Jack Shaw. The majority of the fans were there to see him, and the atmosphere, there was just so much. It was like a pressure cooker in there. Like being a Welshman and being a reporter up in the box, even I felt a little bit of pressure for him to come out with. So I can't imagine what he felt like in the changing rooms. It was generally just people screaming for Jack when he came out. It was like Richard Shaw said afterwards. It was kind of a bit like Conor McGregor out in Dublin. It was that level of intensity. So for that to come out and perform under that amount of pressure and perform the way he did, better than he ever has, I think that definitely says something about this guy's mentality and the potential he has for the future. I mean, Cameron, do you think Malone is going to be the next for him now? Off the back of the win off Josh Reed, or do you think Cage Warriors will look for someone else, because it does often take longer than you expect to get that title shot, doesn't it?
I think I hate making fights allowed, because I feel like you tempt fate when you do it. But again, I would like to see that fight, definitely. But
the next fight,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it will, because and I understand you're definitely right that I can see why Jack would want to do that again and want to have another big event. But I mean, if he wants to progress his career, I think, strike while the iron's hot. I'm sure I would be surprised if he hasn't had a call or a knock at the door, or someone in his ear saying that, Sean Shelby wants a chat. And again, I don't know what motivates, if he would be motivated by money in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, there's a big change in your life if you make that step up. Yeah. And I would like to see him make it while he can make it. But obviously, if he wasn't to do it, and if he was to try and go for multiple defenses, I think Malone's definitely made a case for himself to be in that spot.
Yeah.
Richard has said in the comments on this show last week that they had conversations with the UFC and they had chosen to stay with Cage Warriors, and I hope they continue with that. I think they probably will. It's a sensible place for them. He's only 24 still. There's still plenty of time for it. I think whilst he's hot now, he can only get hotter. I can't see anyone across the European scene at the moment who's available, and who would be on the Cage Warriors radar, who they were putting against him, who would lose to. And that's really badly worded. I don't see anyone who would beat him who's available for Cage Warriors right now across Europe.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, look, it's MMA, so anything can happen. One punch can change everything, as we've seen in the past. But I think definitely on paper, he's definitely standing out for me at the moment. I still think there's maybe a bit of unfinished business with Bouland as well, so that may come back in the future. You never know. But at the moment, I think it is going to be like you said, Richard Saw commented on here last week and said that Jack's sort of committed to see out his contract. So I guess we got to take the main man's word for it at the moment, and we look forward to seeing what comes next for Jack Shaw. But speaking of what comes next and talking to the UFC, that leads us on to another fight that took place on Saturday night. That was UFC in Toronto, an absolutely massive card, which was headlined by Max Holloway and Brian Ortega. Really, really exciting fight and a really exciting build-up to this one. Just quickly before we touch on that, Cameron, were you looking at the Facebook comments to see if we had any on tonight?
Oh, I believe we do. Just a second. Oh. I think Peter was asking where your tie was actually, but I was trying to avoid that.
Yeah. No, I had a lot of stick for that tie over the weekend. A lot of people asked me, was I a schoolboy, school teacher, geography teacher? But YOLO, you gotta do what you gotta do. So
I'm disappointed that you've not made the effort tonight, actually, Lewis. You dress up for Cage Warriors, but you won't dress up for us.
I know, sorry guys. I got my B&B Garage t-shirt on tonight. Shout out to those guys down in Blinder and Albert Leary. But yeah, it's been a bit of a long weekend, so I just thought I'd take it a bit easier tonight, Chris. If that's okay with you, buddy.
Next week.
Next week I'll dress up for you guys, okay? I said I had so much stick this weekend. On the Sunday as well, the Polaris, I wore a check shirt. I was getting called a lumberjack. So I said if we start getting a few more hits and a few more views, I may have to get a stylist or something and put me in some decent clothes. Anything else on it, Cameron?
So Peter was actually asking about what everyone's opinion was of Battle Arena coming to Scotland. So they're coming to Scotland in June. They've announced that they're going to be doing a big show, which again is good for our scene, but not a lot of support for that in this chat, I believe.
I'll be positive about Battle Arena. They've done 53 shows and I've been at their last 8 or 9. It's one of the best batched amateur shows that I've seen. Always runs really smoothly. I see a lot of, because I've been at a lot of MMA events and a lot of them look serene on the surface, but they're pedaling like crazy under the water. There's all sorts of dramas going on. But one thing I always see from Battle Arena is this consistency of approach and consistency of shows. So I think certainly for your amateurs in Scotland, you've got a couple of shows, but you've been crying out for more. I think it'd be a real positive for you guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent, especially at the sort of the, not to say the bottom, but in the entry level of amateur MMA in Scotland. There's a lot of good gyms starting to make a name for themselves, and I mean the last On Top show that I was at was one of the most just entertaining MMA shows I'd ever seen, and the ones that we actually had a triple header a couple of weekends ago. Or I think that was actually almost a month ago. My sense of time's a bit bad, but it's a massive scene, and Battle Arena will definitely bring more eyes to it, which is always a good thing.
Look at the guys who've gone through Battle Arena. You've got the likes of Fabian Edwards, who's a Battle Arena world champ. You had Sam Creasy, Tom Creasy, Josh Plant, who co-mained a BAMA card against Keith Crosby recently. David Kauser, the guy who beat Kean Cowley on BAMA. Anna Asvik, who is world and European IMAF female 125 champ. So, they've had some really decent names on there.
So I think that's a positive response for Battle Arena from us all then,
yeah. There was also Luisa Morlano was asking, are Bellator a serious threat to Cage Warriors in Europe? Lewis?
So big shout out to Louisa. I don't think so. I think it's a good competition. I don't think it's a threat as such because Cage Warriors has got their They've got a great roster of fighters in Europe. I think Bellator was still kind of regarded as a step up, but I don't see it as being too much of a clash. I think there's room for both of those in UK personally, and like I said, I look forward to going to both those shows and watching both of those shows. I don't know what you guys think.
Chris?
I agree with you with that, Lewis. I think there's certainly two different levels. Cage Warriors competed alongside BAMMA, I would say, at the national level. So you go through your amateur show, you go to your regional, then you go to the national, which will give you that huge platform, then would allow you to go on to, what is essentially a global show. Now, whilst Bellator Europe is essentially its own separate entity, from what I can see, there's still... It's still Viacom money that's sitting behind it. It's a huge financial investment that's going into Bellator across this entire roster. So, I think probably swimming in different pools. And Cage Warriors have got the experience. They've done 100 shows here. That's just phenomenal. They've got the pedigree. They've got the fan base already. And touching on what you said about the show being tailored for Jack Shaw. They did the same with Paddy Pimblett in Liverpool beforehand. They did the same with Conor McGregor in Dublin. They understand how to see. Oh, they did the same with Molly McCann in Liverpool as well. So you find the star, you essentially build your show around that star, that central point, and that's something that will take. It takes a while to actually engender, and I think it will take Bellator a while. But as I said earlier, Bellator have got. Like with Cage Warriors, with Ian Dean, Bellator have got one of the best matchmakers about. Jude Samuel is phenomenal. He's got an encyclopedic knowledge of fighters globally, not just across Europe. So, whilst they'll be competing in slightly different tiers, I think it's only positive, certainly for UK and Western European MMA, to have these two outlets available for fighters to go through.
Yeah, so good question, Louisa, and thank you very much for that one.
The one other one that I've seen in there was about whether, as you're about to start talking about the UFC from the weekend, whether Max Holloway should maybe make a move up to lightweight.
Okay, so we'll come to that one now. Then we'll jump into the UFC. Obviously, as we said, UFC Toronto, massive event, and that was headlined by Max Holloway, Brian Ortega. Kerry Stella, you've been quiet for a long time, so I'm gonna come to you first. Max Holloway obviously got a stoppage, fourth round. Doctor stoppage, I believe, with Ortega's swollen eye. First of all, what was your thoughts on the fight? And what was your thoughts on Max Holloway's victory?
Well, all right. I love the respect that they showed, and it wasn't really before the fight. There wasn't too much drama leading up, which I really liked, because it was more concentrating on the actual fight itself and not what they can say to each other in the beginning. At the press conference, Ortega commented on Holloway's health, and that he actually really does care. So that aside, the fight was amazing. I was I actually thought that Ortega was going to win, and multiple reasons. He's a talent. He's up and coming. His winning streak was amazing, but Holloway was just super sharp. His striking was just so on point. He mixed it up. I was not upset about the stoppage whatsoever. I don't think that a guy should have to take more damage than Ortega already did. There would have been no point to it. He was hurt, and he wouldn't have stopped. He had no desire to stop, and I think that the doctors did a really, really, really good job on that. It was a great fight from start to finish. I had to rewatch it just to see, and Ortega got clipped so many times, and he just kept on coming forward, and it was a wild fight.
Yeah, it was very entertaining. I think it definitely lived up to the hype. I want to ask you another question, Kerry, and I'm going to ask each of you guys the same question. Off the back of this fight, or even off the back of his last fight, do you now think Max Holloway is the best featherweight UFC fighter there's ever had?
Without selling Jose Aldo short, he's up there. Max Holloway is definitely something special. He's a phenomenal featherweight, but I think that people also kind of forget Jose Aldo's resume in the featherweight when he was champion. So I kind of the best right there, but maybe not.
Yeah, he's still a long time to prove it, though, isn't he? So that's the good thing about Max. He's still very young. expert Cameron Wright, I want to come to you next. What do you make of this fight? Obviously, you know,
I
a lot of
was.
people said a lot of things that Ortega was going to be able to submit him. He was going to be able to strike him. He always gets the finish. Didn't happen. What was your take on Holloway's performance here?
So I had this sneaky feeling that Ortega was actually going to catch Holloway in triangle, guillotine, something against the cage, like what he did against Swanson. Just pure, and funnily enough, the fight did end up there a couple of times. I think really Ortega was as good as he could ever be in that fight. I don't think you could say that he was a diminished version of himself or he didn't do any, there were things that he wasn't doing right. I think Holloway's just it was a lot of stance switching involved in what he was doing to throw off Ortega's game a lot. He was showing experience beyond Holloway was showing experience beyond his years when he rocked Ortega in the second round, and when he rocked him, he sort of mean mugged at him and kind of swayed a little bit and followed with him. And I'm just like, to be that aware of your surroundings and aware of the reality of what's happening while actually in the fight and succeeding that shows that he's got a calmness that really, very few will be able to stay in the cage with. I'd like to think that it was Henner Gracie kind of living up to what he says, and that when a fighter is not showing anything that they shouldn't, you shouldn't just let them keep going. And it was good to see. I really think that we should see more of that in fighting. When if your guys, if someone's taking a beating, even if they're still in there, even if they've still got a couple, even if it was at the third round, I still wouldn't have been upset about it, because taking extra damage, you're just taking years out of your career. Ortega took some shots in that fight that, man, like I seen a comment somewhere saying that Ortega took he used every chin that he hadn't used in the previous 16 of his fights. And we're like, really? He used up every big chunk he could have used. And I hope that apparently he's going to go recover for 3 months now. I think I read somewhere he's going to film a movie. Good luck with that eye if he is. But yeah, I want to see him recover and then come back again, because he'll have learned a lot from that fight. And, a few years down the line, I could see that fight happening again.
Yeah. Is he the best featherweight ever?
Yeah. So I want to say yes, and I feel like Kerry, it definitely feels disrespectful to Aldo to say that. But man, I mean, what he did to Aldo, and you could say that was a diminished Aldo because of the McGregor fights, whatever. I think just the way Holloway moved, there's just a completeness to Holloway's game that, Aldo always tired in the fourth and the fifth. Sometimes even earlier. His jiu-jitsu was brilliant, but his wrestling was never that fantastic. His striking was always on point, but I feel like, Holloway can do everything at 1,000 miles an hour to the fifth round. I reckon you could give him 10 rounds and he'd still do it. So I'm leaning towards yes, but I can't be that disrespectful to Aldo.
You're leaning towards yes, but you don't want to say it.
Yes.
Yeah. And Chris, it was definitely a great response from Max Holloway. He's had a little bit of criticism, not criticism, but there's been doubts over him. He's had this whole health issue, missed weight a couple of times. People were generally worried that, we were going to get a diminished version of Max Holloway coming into this fight against a primed Ortega. Is there any better way to answer your critics than a performance like that?
Well, he proved them wrong, didn't he? It was like Neo from the Matrix, the way he was moving. The way he was just sticking those punches was just phenomenal. And his recovery as well. When Ortega did attempt to drag him down, he just bounced straight back up again. I think Cameron's right. It's just a complete fighter. If you look at the question that's been flitting around Twitter, it's been McGregor, Holloway, Aldo, who's the best 145 or ever. I think obviously McGregor's beaten both of them, but has McGregor improved from the person he was 5 years ago when he beat Holloway in comparison to the improvement that Holloway's had in that period? And yes, as you're saying, Kerry, I completely agree. I don't think so. Conor's been a phenomenal exponent for MMA as a whole. He's really brought the sport into the fore, but I don't think he's got any better, and I don't think the best Conor beats the best Max.
Never. Not anymore. He has not improved. Shockingly, hasn't improved.
And you know, the best Jose, the best Jose was coming up against people who were talented, but were they as talented as Brian Ortega on Saturday night? Again, I don't think so. I think, you know, I'm going to just go out on a limb and just say, yeah, Max Holloway is the best 145 ever, and he's defended his belt unlike Conor in any organisation. And yeah, he's the number one. I'd love to see him go up to 155 and see how he competes. You know, the guy walks around at about 185, so it's not as if he's going to be out muscled by these guys. He's 5'11". He's a big guy anyway. So yeah, let's see what he can do next.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think to answer the questions on Facebook, I would definitely like to see him go up and challenge for a title. I don't think there's any rush. You know, I think he maybe have another 1 or 2 fights at 145, but I definitely think there's going to be 155 in Max Holloway's future, especially if they do bring in more weight classes as they're set to do. I think there's definitely going to be kind of reshuffles, and I can definitely see Holloway going up. So, yeah, a great fight for Max Holloway, an exciting fight. And, you know, I agree with what Cameron said as well about stopping the fight. I think it was nice to see that they didn't just send him out for the sake of it, just to get stopped, because it wouldn't have gained anything. The fight was done essentially at that point. And I mean, what was even more impressive was that before Holloway came out for the fourth, he kind of signaled to Joe Rogan, "Yeah, I'm going to stop this fight now." I mean, what did you make of that, Kerry? That's something that we always love to see, isn't it? Someone calling their shot and coming out and backing it up.
I loved it. Not all, like, just the way he did it. I'm ending this. Like, he was adamant it's going to end. I think he was even humble when he said, "Well, I didn't end it when I said I was going to," but still, he was really, it was. I can't get over how great of a fight that really was. And I definitely want to see him go up to 155. I think before he gets a title shot, he should take on Tony Ferguson, possibly. Isn't Poirier in the running too? There's a couple guys, but I mean, they're gonna give him an immediate super fight title shot, and they're gonna, it's just what the UFC does. I would like to see him take, you know, the top contender first, but that's just me.
For fun, I'd like to see him take Justin Gaethje. Could you imagine Gaethje and Holloway just slugging it out in the middle? It'd be beautiful.
That would be a fight.
That'd be a brawl.
Yeah, I'm not hating on that fight, Chris, to be honest with you. I'm not hating on that at all. So a tremendous win there for Max Holloway. Also, again, the finish over a very game Brian Ortega. Just before that, moments before that, we had another title fight, which was between Valentina Shevchenko and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Another title fight, a fight that, you know, again, it's been in the making for a while. Obviously, Valentina the Bullet taking that decision and becoming the champion. Kerry, what was your take on this matchup?
I loved it from when I don't remember exactly if it was UFC. I can't remember which one, where Valentina was supposed to fight Amanda Nunes, and she had to pull out the morning of. And Joanna said, you know, "I'll fight her even if it's not for the belt." And right then, I knew that this was going to be made sooner or later. I just wasn't sure, you know, where and if it would be for the title. And then, you know, with what happened with Nico, it just made all the sense in the world, especially over Sijara Eubanks. I just was like, what is that even? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many better contenders. Not that she's not, but I just felt that there was better fights out there for Valentina. And I really liked it. They you know, fought 3 times in Muay Thai. Valentina was the victor in all 3 times. But, you know, it's Russia versus Poland. There's just so many great things in this fight. And wow, what a fantastic performance out of both of them. You know, Valentina had the dominant first 3 rounds. Not that she didn't, you know, take it to Joanna for the last 2, but Joanna seemed to have turned it on in the last 2 rounds, or round and a half. I thought it was a great fight. Definitely, you know, it should have gone to Valentina. I called that from the beginning. I loved it.
So did you score it 3 rounds to 2, Kerry? Did you?
I don't even know. The 4th one is hard for me. So I definitely think, I would say 3-2. I would say 3-2 in Valentina's favor. But Joanna, I don't know. I felt like the whole point thing that she usually does didn't work out in this one. And, you know, Valentina's also got her takedowns, and she's so well-rounded. I couldn't see her not winning. Yeah.
And Kerry, obviously, you know, you're a massive kind of supporter of women's MMA. You've been in the game kind of boasting at women's MMA for a long time. You really work hard in that. In terms of, you know, MMA levels and striking, it really doesn't get much better than this for women's MMA, does it? What we saw on Saturday between these 2 guys. There's no kind of higher level than what we saw, is there?
I don't think there's any technical strikers out there like those two ladies. I think that was just, it was a clinic. It was a Muay Thai clinic, if anything, except for the, couple takedowns from Valentina. But yeah, I mean, that was just, it was beautiful. The footwork, everything about that fight was amazing to me. And I mean, for me, it was a long time in the making. Valentina's patience that she's had for years. It was really nice to see. And, I can't wait to see what they're going to do with her next.
Yeah. And Cameron, obviously another great fight. We always love to see two exciting fighters get in the cage like this. What did you make of the matchup and how did you score it?
Yeah, it's funny because I was really excited for this fight, and I don't mean any bad by it. I actually felt after the first round there was an inevitability to Shevchenko's win. I kind of got the feeling that Joanna's got this amazing mindset, right? Like our previous fight, she was getting everybody to call her Joanna champion when she was, had her championship run. On the way there, she was trying to get that going as well. And I think there's definitely something to, if you've lost to a fighter twice before, even if it's in a different discipline, it was Muay Thai, it was 10 years ago. But if you lose to somebody twice, that's a massive mountain psychologically to overcome and see a path to victory for yourself. And I thought it was really interesting in the build-up for it. Joanna kept saying, "Oh, this isn't Muay Thai anymore; it's MMA," and was kind of trying to. I felt like she was trying to make the point that it's going to be a different fight. But as we saw, it actually turned out it was just a Muay Thai fight because that is where their skills are. And Shevchenko, the takedown she scored were, to be honest, looked easy for me, which was really surprising considering Joanna's been training at ATT for the last a few years now, and I was really expecting her to basically make it harder for Shevchenko to take her down, but I mean, she turned it on in the last two rounds, and that's the other frustrating. It was a bit frustrating for me as well to see Joanna be able to turn it on in those last two rounds and take advantage. Shevchenko's had a bit of an issue fading in fights before, and I feel like Joanna took advantage of that really, really well in the last two rounds. But it's just like I feel like Joanna, I could see her coming away from that fight feeling like, man, if things just went a little bit differently, she could have walked out of there with the belt. But definitely, I've seen Dana White was saying she's going to be better down at 115. I'd like to see Ian Jacek stay down there and see if she can make another run, because there's still a lot of exciting fights for her to have in that weight class. Yeah,
I would agree, yeah. And I want to come to you, Chris, about this next question. Then obviously we've got Valentina at long last getting her title. Another loss for Joanna. Where do both of these fighters go from here now?
I think Joanna's just at 125. I thought she looked better and healthier. We've seen those videos of her in the bath crying in agony as she was dropping down to 115, and she's just that little bit too big for 115. And going back to what you were saying, Cameron, about the two losses, well, she's had two losses to Rose Namajunas, so there isn't really anywhere for her to go. She's just going to be a gatekeeper at 115. The 125 division, though, I think is ridiculously shallow in the UFC. I think Bellator have actually got a better 125 division for females. Outside of Valentina and Joanna, you had Chattanoogayan and Jessica Ai fighting, who were ranked 3 and 9 in the UFC rankings respectively. Now I'm going to be really dirty and I'm going to plug one of my own people because I manage fighters. I've got a female fighter, Marlon Hermanson, and I always, whenever I look at female fights at flyweight, I think, would I put Marlon against either of them now? Now, bearing in mind that Marlon's only 2-0 as a pro, she's just signed to Bellator, by the way. Super exciting. Honestly, Kerry, look out for her. You're going to love her. But against Jessica and Chikagian, that's a girl, yeah. I keep trying to say her surname and failing miserably. I would put Marlon against them 10 times out of 10. I think she'd ruin them. And Joanna and Valentina are just an absolute class apart from them. Valentina was, as Cameron said, for the first 2.5 rounds, she was absolutely imperious. She ruined Joanna. So Joanna likes to throw punches and bunches. She likes to finish off with a head kick. Whenever she tried a head kick, it was just painful to watch. Valentina didn't just catch the kick and punish her. She caught the kick. She took her down, and then didn't just take her down. She took her down straight into side control and just ruined her. It was an absolutely dominant performance for the first two and a half rounds before she gassed herself out. I think, Joanna desperately needs to work on making her game more well-rounded. While she's turning around and saying that it's an MMA fight, not a Muay Thai fight, the only MMA fighter I saw in there was Valentina Shevchenko. Joanna showed she made no attempt to grapple. She made no attempt to do anything off her back. She just lay there and just hoped that she wasn't going to get beaten up any more than she was. So, yeah, I think she needs to make some serious improvements in her game. I don't know who there is to challenge Valentina though, because I can't. Yen Jacek's by far and away the best.
It's a tough call. It's a tough call to get from the guess someone now. I think no
one's going to get near her. Not as available anyway, because the Bellator swept up all the rest of the decent 125ers.
Isn't Antonina 125?
Isn't
her sister is 125 too in UFC? She's in the same weight class. I'd be really, really, really. I'm really actually super interested to see what she does with her career, because even Valentina said, now I want to see my sister climb to the top. I don't think I could ever see them fighting each other, but and I know that Valentina said that she does have unfinished business with Amanda Nunes. So I could potentially see, a super fight maybe between Valentina, like another one, Valentina and Amanda. And if, God forbid, Valentina loses, the flyweight belt and takes the bantamweight back, she's got her sister coming up in the ranks. So it's definitely an interesting formula to see.
Yeah. I'll definitely look forward to seeing how that one plays out. I mean, like Chris said, it is a little bit thin there at 125. So, I would think if her sister's as anything like her, she will rise to the ranks quite quickly.
She's a beast. Antonina's a beast. Super talented.
So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that anyway. Just before we move on, Cameron, do we have any more questions coming in from the Facebook page?
There was a couple. Well, just actually still on the top of the UFC, Joe Barton has apparently taken time out of his busy schedule from managing Fleetwood FC down in England to ask us what our favourite fight at the UFC over the weekend was, because there was a rake of good fights on that card alongside the two title fights, and I would actually just like to bring everyone's. I don't know if who all watched it, but obviously Thiago Santos and Jimmy Manuwa, just the wildest 2 minutes I've seen in a couple of years at least. Yeah. It reminded me a lot of the when Travis Brown fought Andrei Arlovsky, and it was like a 1 round. They literally just said, "I'm not going to try technique. I'm not going to try takedowns. I am just going to swing with every single ounce of power I have, and we'll see who's still standing at the end of it." And it sort of I think it took about 3 seconds of Thiago Santos kind of looking for the range and just went, screw it, and just started throwing. And he gave, I think Manuwa, it was the first or second punch, Manuwa was almost on the ground, and Manuwa went, "Oh no, not that easy." And from that point until the fight ended, it was just wild chaos. And I think Santos got a bonus for that fight, but I don't know if Jimmy got a bonus for that, because they never got a fight of the night because of the Holloway Ortega fight. I pray that Manuwa got a cheeky wee 50k bonus, because he deserved it for that. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was a great fight. Chris, any more thoughts on that one?
Completely agree, honestly. I wonder how good Jimmy Manuwa would be if he was 5 years younger, because he came to the game so late. He's 38 years old, and there was literally just speed of twitch fibers between those two guys. Thiago Santos at 34, Jimmy Manuwa at 38. Both of them both of them hit so damn hard. They hit like steam trains. There's one time when Jimmy caught Thiago this left uppercut, and Thiago's head just snapped back, and I thought, to actually keep your head on your shoulders is impressive enough. But then to be able to engage back was phenomenal. But it was just that split second of time in between the two of them. In terms of ability, I put them pretty much at a par. But yeah, I love Jimmy. Absolutely. I've loved watching Jimmy since the moment he started. And I've always wondered, if he just had that extra few years in MMA, just how far could he have gone? Because I think he hit top 5 in the UFC. I think certainly could have gone that little bit further. Maybe not John Jones level, but certainly, pushing the rankings a bit further.
Yeah, potentially. Kerry, anything to add to that? Jimmy Manuwa versus Santos?
I loved that fight. It was a great matchup. I did think that Manuwa was going to take it. And I think that Santos was the only one to get the bonus out of that because it was a performance of the night. I could be wrong. Yeah. My fight of the night, personally, I really, really loved Gunnar Nelson versus Alex Oliveira. I loved that fight. That was just so much fun to watch. I mean, I was sitting there with a bunch of my friends that have never watched, like two and a quarter people watched UFC fights. The rest of them have never seen it. They were like, they couldn't believe. And I said, if he wasn't being choked out, I don't know if it would have been that bloody, because it was just like, you know, the pressure and the blood rushing to his head. But holy shit, man, that was, what a great night.
Yeah, I just wanted to see the Just Bleed guy. Could you imagine him just then panning to him immediately afterwards? He got his dream.
Something I wanted to touch on with that fight, obviously speaking of Gunnar Nelson and Cowboy Oliveira, was something you mentioned in the chat earlier, Chris, about the fence grab there. It was one moment, obviously, Gunnar Nelson had practically had the takedown on him, and he was on his way down. He grabbed the fence and pulled himself back up. Now, the ref obviously separated them, gave them a talking to, and put them back into the clinch position, I believe. But the question is, should he have had a point taken away? I mean, ultimately, it didn't matter because Gunnar Nelson went on to finish the fight. But, I mean, in terms of, you know, a fight going the distance, would you say, guys, I'll come to you first, Chris, that should be a point deduction there?
100%. You see it across multiple levels. I remember seeing it, another bloke, at a Battle Arena event. It was actually a Battle Arena title fight going back a year ago. Scott Clark versus Tommy Taylor. And Tommy Taylor, a grappler, up against Scott Clark, a predominantly a striker. Tommy got hold of him, picked him up, went to dump him. Scott grabbed the top of the fence, and he prevented the takedown from occurring. Scott went on to win the title. Now, would it have made a difference? I don't know. But, you know, that could be the deciding factor whether someone's going to win or lose a fight. So, you know, obviously I'm talking at just amateur regional level here. But all the way through, I think there should be a universal rule. If you prevent a takedown by grabbing the fence, by clearly cheating, you should have a point taken away from you just to knock it on the head straight away, because this just shouldn't happen. I understand why people do it. It's a natural reaction, but it's got to be a natural reaction which is bred out of people rather than allowed to continue.
Yeah. And Kerry, do you agree with that?
Oh, it was so blatant, and absolutely. I've been saying that for a very long time. And I always joke around, and I said it even watching the fight. I said the only person that's allowed to grab the fence with his fingers or his toes and not get in trouble for it is Conor McGregor. He could pretty much do whatever he wants, especially if it's Herb Dean, who I think might be paid off half the time to turn around. And I didn't see that. I mean, really, like, I don't know if you guys watched that fight with Khabib, but he cheated a good amount of the fight, grabbing his gloves, grabbing his shorts, grabbing the fence. Like, how many things is the guy allowed to fucking do without Herb Dean finally stepping in and saying something? But I think it absolutely needs to be a universal rule. I also think that the rules need to be definitively unified. It's just ridiculous how many different sets of rules there are for how many different commissions. And I just think it's so silly and stupid. And, you know, you get decisions where people are like, oh, what just happened? Well, you know what? There's no real criteria, and there needs to be. It's stupid not to.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think with that, obviously, we're getting into a whole new discussion, which could probably take us up to another hour now. So we'll probably,
absolutely
probably have to knock that one on the head until perhaps next week. But Gunnar Nelson, Cowboy Oliveira, another pretty entertaining fight, a bloody one in the end, and, you know, good to see Gunny come back and get a win as well.
Hell yeah.
Cameron, I know I've got a message come through telling us to read out the question about Aaron Khalid. I think we'll have to make that one the last one then for tonight, okay?
Yeah, the discussion of Khalid's finish against Foss. I really don't, and I don't like commenting on these situations, because to me, if you look at two fighters, I'm going to make it a generic answer, because I feel that these situations always have the same answer for me. Is that if you have two fighters walking into a cage, when you walk into that cage, you're aware. You should be aware of everything. You should move correctly. You should defend yourself correctly. There's a level of motor skills and a level of response that is expected at all times. And the referee is the only person in there that has a chance, and it's not a guarantee, it's only a chance, literally, to save your life should you not be showing those things correctly. And I would always prefer that a referee errs on the side of caution than errs on the side of letting somebody get hurt. And while, yeah, that stoppage was, it's a tough one, but I prefer the referee err on the side of caution in any situation.
So just for people at home who's watching, who's not quite sure what we're on about, I'll just keep you up to date on what's happened. One of the fights on Cage Warriors 100 this weekend, obviously a massive card with a huge amount of great fights. One of those was Aaron Khalid versus Hakon Foss, a welterweight clash. Basically, we've had a first round where it was a very, very competitive fight. I actually had Hakon taking the first round. He landed a lot of good leg kicks on Aaron. But second round, Aaron showed a lot of heart. We had a little bit of kind of back and forth, a lot of trades, which eventually led to Aaron getting Hakon down, getting him up against the cage, a position Aaron Khalid is excellent in, and obviously getting submission. I believe it was a Darce choke he had on Hakon. Now, what happened is, obviously, Aaron's over the top. He's got Hakon's head under his arms. You can't see his head. You can just see his body led there. The refs, he stopped moving a little bit. The refs come in. He's shaking at Hakon's hand. There's been no response. He's looking a bit floppy. He's shaking it again. The submission looked in tight, and he stopped the fight. Now, obviously, as they brought Aaron up off the top of him, he's kind of led their wake, saying, why is this being stopped? For me, my thoughts on it is that it was a fair stoppage. If the ref asks you twice to respond, you don't respond, the fight gets stopped. There's no real argument there for me. Chris, what's your take on this situation? Was it a good stoppage? And what did you think of the fight as well?
It was a good fight. I think Khalid's got a jerky style anyway, so it's difficult to watch him fight. You know, you can see he's super talented, and there's a fight in the UFC as well, which is quite similar. Elias Theodorou against your boy Eric Anders. Theodorou's got a really jerky style as well, so you don't truly appreciate just how good someone is because they don't have that fluidity of movement. So, you know, I struggled in that respect watching it just purely as a neutral. But the stoppage itself was, for me, there's not even a question about it. It was 100% right. You've got to take into account who the referee was. It was Mark Goddard who was the ref. You know, Mark is one of the top, you know, certainly one of the top 3 refs in the world at the moment. So, you know, he's the most experienced person by far who's in that cage. He gave Hakon Foss plenty of opportunity to move. Now, you know, if you watch it back as well, Hakon's breathing, it became slow and laboured. You could actually see his abdomen fully inflated and going in and out. His legs stayed crossed. He looked like somebody who essentially had been knocked out. The way he was breathing, the way he was moving, the arm, he lifted it up and dropped it. Now, Dan Hardy did say afterwards when talking about it, in the heat of that moment, as Aaron Khalid releases and Hakon Foss takes a breath in, immediately his brain will come back to life. You know, he's being oxygenated again, and he won't be aware of the fact that he's lost consciousness. And to him, there'll be literally a split second between him defending and him and the referee stopping. So, you know, I don't think that he was in an objective enough position to be able to give a truly fair response to that. But looking at the entire situation externally, and certainly the overriding factor being Mark Goddard being the referee, I think there isn't even a question mark. Mark did completely the right thing, and it was a good stoppage.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that, Chris. And Kerry, I know obviously you didn't see the fight, but would you agree with what Cameron said, obviously, with fights like this and when you're in a submission position, that it's always better for the referees to err on the side of caution than leave it too long?
Oh, absolutely. I think that really the referee's job is to make sure the fighters are safe. Fighter safety is their number one thing that they're supposed to do. You know, look out for, you know, obviously points being taken away and whatnot. But I think that's their absolute number one job, and referees shouldn't really err on what the fans want or what, you know, the promotion want. They have to keep the fighters safe. That's their job. I'm actually going to be taking the officials course, and I know the ABC course, and I know that's like the biggest thing is you have to make sure the fighters are safe in there, because at the end of the day, it's a fight. There's, you know, if you want to have another one, you can't let things go where, you know, God forbid the person is knocked out or concussed or whatever. So yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. And I see people catching feelings about it all the time and getting upset about a ref stopping a fight, but I'm always on their side.
Yeah, brilliant. It's not always an easy job, but I think like Chris said as well, Mark Goddard is definitely one of the best in the business. So
absolutely.
For me, I think there's no arguments for the stoppage. I think it was another good win for Aaron, two in his last 2 in Cardiff, and onwards and upwards for him. And yeah, guys, I think that brings us to the end of this evening. Just like to say, first of all, thank you all for joining me. Obviously, it's always great for us to come on and have these chats, especially after such a big weekend of sport. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to the expert, Cameron Wright. Cameron, where can people hit you up on social media, buddy?
I'm on Facebook. I am on Twitter as Meatbag. That's with 4 E's. I do try and post there at least once in a while.
Yeah, you definitely need to change that handle, buddy. That's going to be
It's only for people that really want to find me. That's why it's difficult.
Yeah, I suppose if they do find you, you'll know they are.
They deserve it.
That's one good way of looking at it, I suppose. Chris, thank you for the time, buddy, this evening. Always good to get your thoughts on what's going on. Where can people hit you up, buddy?
Thanks, Lewis. So on Twitter is Chris, at Chris_BRAM_. You can get me at Battle Ready on Instagram, at Battle Ready on Facebook, and the website's www.battlereadyam.com. You can see all of my fighters, including the awesome Marlon Hermanson who I was talking about earlier.
Brilliant. Chris, thank you very much for your time this evening, buddy. And last but not least, the wonderful Kerry Stella. Kerry, thank you for joining us this evening. Where can people hit you up on social media? Give yourself a shout out.
Well, thank you for having me with you guys. It's always a pleasure. And everybody can find me at Kerry Stellar pretty much across the board and in the Girls Corner. And you can find my website in thegirlscorner.com.
Brilliant. Well, guys, just want to say a big thank you. Just for anyone who's looking, my Twitter handle is Lewis_MMA UK. All the stuff I do through MMA UK is posted on there, as well as on the MMA UK website. So go ahead and give me a like, a follow, wherever. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, guys, obviously good to talk to you all. And we will speak to you again next week, okay?
Guys, have a great night.
Thanks,
You
everyone.
too.
See you.
Adios.
Bye. Thanks for watching, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.